Welcome back. I'm Alex Lyon. This is lesson 3 of 7 in the course. In this lesson, I want to give you a little warning, a little heads up. A lot of people give pushback on this particular strategy that you're going to see where I talk about using plain English, plain language to express yourself. It's one of the most valuable ways to make your messages more clear, more concise, and more confident. And yet some people resist. They want to keep in the sophisticated, complicated language. So if you feel that you're in that crowd, if you're one of those people that doesn't want to do that, then check your self-talk. Figure out what it is that's going on in your mind and address it. Because again, all the tips in the world are not going to change the way you ultimately communicate unless you figure out what's happening internally that's driving your communication. So let's jump right in. In our last lesson, we looked at how to form a concise overall message. In lesson 3, we'll look at concise sentences. Concise tip number 3 is use short sentences. Oliver Wendell Holmes, a well-known judge from about 100 years ago, said, "Speak clearly if you speak at all. Carve every word before you let it fall." There's a very poetic way to say you want to work on short sentences and express yourself concisely. Short sentences pop. They sound much more confident, more concrete, and much more memorable than long-winded sentences. They sound like news headlines, topic sentences of paragraphs, items in a bulleted list, and one-line jokes. A lot of times people will develop a nice, clean, crisp way of communicating, and it sounds much more confident than long-winded, demanding sentences. So you want to use as few words as possible. Strategy number 1, shave words. Comedian Jerry Seinfeld talks about how longer jokes are very hard to make funny, and they're much funnier when you shorten the jokes and make them pop. He was talking about the length of jokes, and he said if it's too long, just a split second too long, you will shave letters off of words. You count syllables to get it just right. It's more like songwriting. And when he says songwriting, he's referring to how songwriters have to fit their words into a certain beat, and they will have to come up with creative ways to express themselves in very few words. So Seinfeld has a joke about Pop-Tarts where he really practices what he preaches. He says about Pop-Tarts, they can't go stale because they were never fresh, which is hilarious, but it's amazing how he can communicate that in so few words. And there's not a single extra letter in this punchline. They can't go stale because they were never fresh. He doesn't say they will never go stale or they can never go stale. That would be too many words. You can't go stale. Cause instead of because. They were never fresh. I can't think of anything that I would shave off of this, and it's much funnier because of it. The lesson here is you want to get rid of the clutter so your sentences sound more concise and more confident. So which sentence sticks with you? We'll look at 2 samples about voting. If you are bored and disgusted by politics and don't bother to vote, you are in effect voting for the entrenched establishments of the 2 major parties who, please rest assured, are not dumb and who are keenly aware that it is in their interest to keep you disgusted and bored and cynical and to give you every possible reason to stay at home doing one-hitters and watching MTV on primary day. That's a very long sentence. It's going to be difficult to remember what the message is here. Here's B. If you don't vote, you don't matter, which was said by Sean Penn in a movie about a politician from the South. If you're asking me which line sticks, if you don't vote, you don't matter, stuck with me for years after I saw that movie one time. Now, I don't know if the politician he was playing actually said that or if the people who wrote the movie just crafted it, but it's a well-crafted sentence, and again, there's not a single extra letter or word in that sentence, and that's why it sounds so confident. Whether you agree or disagree with the sentiment, it sounds confident and it really pops. So let's shave the clutter to make this sound like a headline. A few things came up, complications I guess you could call them, that are going to cause some unforeseen delays, and I'm not sure if we can get it all done by Wednesday. Now we might. I'm just saying that we're going to have to see what happens and play it by ear. How could we shave this clutter to make it sound much more like a news headline? If it were me, I would do it this way. I'm not sure if we can get it all done by Wednesday. Now we might. You could even reword it slightly. I'm not sure if we can get it all done by Wednesday because of delays. Now, is there anything else we could shave from this sentence? Shave a few more words like Seinfeld. What would he do? I think probably he would take the extra few words out that he could. And that would make it sound even more concise and confident. Let's try another one. Let's shave the clutter. What do you recommend we do when we visit Rhode Island? Well, let's see. I'd say probably the most amazing place, I mean, it's really amazing as long as the weather is good, is the beach in Rhode Island, because that's what we're known for, and it's not called the Ocean State for no reason. So this is a pretty long answer for a very short question. What do you recommend we do? And if it were me, I would shorten this all the way down and get rid of almost everything, and I would say the most amazing place is the beach. Can we shave this even further? Well, we might be able to, but you don't want to overcorrect and shave it down to single words. I think if you ask someone this question and they answered the beach, that might sound a little too clipped and a little dismissive. So you make sure you form full thoughts, full sentences, and you're going to be on safe ground. Strategy number 2, use plain English. A lot of people, perhaps to sound smart, perhaps because they love language, will dress up what they say in unnecessarily complicated vocabulary. So you want to avoid those kinds of bigger words because they don't necessarily add a lot of value. Utilize, if you look it up, it just means use. Problematical just means problem. Academia is another way to say college. You want to use plain language whenever you can, because every once in a while there'll be a thought you can't possibly express plainly, and you want to leave room in your sentences for that more sophisticated idea. And to do so, you want to simplify everything else that you can into very plain English. I actually have heard a lot of people coming up through grad school use the word problematical, and I just never understood why they would use such a demanding word. So don't use flowery language when simple language will do. Say it in plain English. Contemplate. How would you say this word, contemplate? How would you translate that? I would say think. Commence is another fancy way to say start, and terminate is a fancy way to say end. Now, you don't have to do this in every single case, but in general, to be concise and to make nice, concise sentences, you want to use plain English. Let's say this one in plain English. I was reflecting on my position and have altered my perspective on the matter. What's the person really saying? I think they're saying, I changed my mind. And that's how you want to express yourself. There's no way to misunderstand a nice, plainly worded sentence. So use short sentences with as few words as possible. Your takeaway strategies are to shave the clutter, like Seinfeld and other people who really work on compressing those sentences, and use plain English whenever you can. Your takeaway task here is to apply this in conversations and Q&A in the next few days and make a habit out of answering with short, concise sentences. In our next lesson, we're going to look at how to organize your thoughts clearly. I look forward to seeing you then.